I'm going to take this opportunity to provide the residents of Kenner with the truth on how we got to this point with garbage collection. Garbage contracts have been discussed extensively in Kenner over the past few years, and I expect some discussion tonight. So I think the residents expect the vendor to abide by the terms of the contract. On November 27th, 2023, IV Waste, through this certified letter, informed the City of Kenner that they are terminating their contract effective March 1st, 2024. Neither me nor any other city employee tried to terminate, stop, or even complain about the garbage service provided by IV Waste. The decision not to live up to their contract and abandon the residents of Kenner is 100% the choice of Sidney Torres and IV Waste. Sidney Torres and IV Waste quit Kenner. So it's all started. I'm going to give you a brief timeline. Councilman Brannigan knows this. The initial meeting with Sidney Torres, for whatever reason it was July 27th, 2022 in my office. Really don't know what the meeting was about. He wanted to come meet us, and that's pretty much it. So September 28th, 2022, after a complaint from one of our Public Works employees, we met with Sidney Torres and Julie Tafaro to discuss IV Waste truck patterns around the city's public work yard. This in itself raised concerns why the trucks were even at the yard. In that meeting, Sidney Torres began to ask for $400,000 for building the drop site 2 years ago, and that he was still owed the money. So what that prompted me to do is in October to start reviewing the contract and invoices and look at the whole service. November 3rd, 2022, the city attorney informed me about serious billing issues, discrepancies with IV Waste invoicing. What we learned on the garbage side of the contract, IV Waste added unit numbers that increased their invoice total. They were adding service units. But the real issues were with bulky waste and recycling. For example, when IV Waste's boom truck picks up debris from a residence, it's brought to the city's public works yard and dumped instead of bringing it to a landfill. The dumped debris eventually makes it to a roll-off container. IV Waste would then charge another fee to bring that container to a landfill. With recycling, IV Waste would pick it up, and even though the contract states that once picked up, they own it, they'd bring it to the city's public works yard and dump it. Then an IV Waste employee would determine if anything was contaminated. The so-called contaminated waste would be put in a container and sent to the landfill, and they'd charge us again. The non-contaminated waste would be put in a container and shipped to a Baton Rouge area recycling processing plant, and they'd bill us again. November 10th, 2022, the decision was made to reduce invoice totals payment for November. We decided to start paying them for the contract called for. We refused to pay the first-time invoice labeled supplementary services fee for $48,444 on top of the same fee invoiced amount as recycling fee. Clear duplication of billing for service. Recycling and drop site are supplementary services, one fee for both. It's been like that since these contracts have been around. Suddenly, IV Waste invoiced separately and continued to invoice separately until we reassigned supplementary services to Ramelli. After we cut the invoice total payment and refused to pay the duplicate fee, IV Waste shuts down the drop site and threatens to not pick up garbage the next day. So we agreed to pay the believed overage amount under protest just to keep garbage service in the city of Kenner, but we did not pay the second duplicate fee. November 14th, 2022, met with IV Waste and Sidney Torres to discuss overages and fees charged outside the contract terms. December 16th, November, invoices paid in full but under protest, second month to keep the garbage service. Again, we didn't pay the duplicate fee, invoiced their supplementary services, $48,440. We also canceled the $12,000 to $15,000 a month street sweeping service. There was no contract for street sweeping service. The city of Kenner has a street sweeper. No idea why the city paid IV Waste over $400,000 to operate this street sweeper. January 1, 2023, drop site returns to open on weekends only. January 10th, 2023, met with Sidney Torres to try to discuss his invoicing. Sidney then discussed IV Waste leaving the city if we continue to take away services not in the contract like street sweeping. He also talked about selling us his 3-year-old cans. or it's approximately 3-year-old cans. 8 days later, January 18th, 2023, IV Waste offered to sell the city used cans from anywhere from $2 to $2.5 million. That's more than he paid for brand new. Everything I'm saying is actually backed up by fact and letters from him. Here's his attorney's letter to buy the cans. January 2024, 2023, we get a settlement letter. IV offered to continue all services if we would pay more than the contract terms allowed. Pretty much we'd pay what he was billing us for. IV Waste wanted payment for 23,095 service units, which is above the 22,000 units that exist under the contract. IV Waste count includes multiple duplicate addresses, addresses that are vacant lots, or addresses that simply don't exist. IV Waste wanted us to pay $2.10 for recycling, plus $1.10 for the drop site operation, totaling $3.20 instead of the $2.10 for both services as the contract states. He also wanted us to agree to CPI increases for services that weren't even eligible for the increases, roll-offs and recycling. The contract never allows for CPI increase on roll-offs, and CPI kicks in recycling in 5 years. We haven't even reached 5 years yet. IV Waste started taking CPI increase on recycling in July 2021. And also, settlement was we would drop our claims on IV Waste overbilling. Not once did IV Waste ever make an offer to settle the overbilling. Here's your letter from his attorney trying to sell us some cans and settlement. So, January 27, 2023, because I would not agree with IV Waste settlement offer to their continued billing the residents of Kenner, the decision was made to inform IV Waste to stop performing supplemental services, which is the recycling and drop site. February 10th, 2023, IV Waste filed suit over suspended supplemental services, the recycling drop-off site. We countersue them for all claims and overbilling. Here's their lawsuit. February 14th, 4 days later, I held a press conference to inform the residents of the change in supplementary services and spoke about IV Waste overbilling. The dollar amounts I talked about were obtained from IV Waste's invoices. That's where these numbers come from, their invoices. The change from IV Waste decreased the city's cost approximately $100,000 per month. That's what was stated in the press conference. Since then, in the 11 months since that press conference, we've learned that IV Waste invoices for supplementary services was $986,953.56 over the contracted amount. So I was pretty much dead on with my approximate that is about $100,000 a month. March 1st, 2023, Ramelli starts recycling and operating a drop site. April 1st, Ramelli invoiced for supplemental services, $2.10 times 22,000 units, which is $46,200 a month. That's it. June 21st, 2023, District Court in Gretna, 24th JDC, ruled against IV Waste. Their motion for summary judgment was denied. November 16th, Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against IV Waste by denying their writ application. November 27th, 2023, IV Waste sends notice of termination of contract. The last pickup day will be February 29th, 2024. That's the first letter I sent you. A few days after that, December 5th, 2023, I met with Bob Ramelli to inform them of IV Waste's decision to stop providing garbage services in Kenner on March 1st, 2024. Told him to let us know if there'd be any issues with him resuming services. He said he was able to do it, but had concerns on the number of cans he had remaining that weren't damaged by the city when they were picked up in 2020. December 7th, at the request of Kyle France, I met Jesse Murphy of Waste Pro in my office. Jesse Murphy said Waste Pro can pick up garbage in Kenner for $18 a service unit. 2 weeks later, December 21st, after thinking about Waste Pro's offer, I met with Jesse Murphy and the city attorneys to confirm the $18 unit cost and discuss the length of a contract. From the recent garbage contracts in neighboring parishes and municipalities, we have a good idea what the going rate for garbage collection would be if we RFP'd this service now and anticipate what it would be in 2 years. Then I thought the long-term savings for the residents outweighed the short-term increase. January 4th, 2024, I met with council members McKinney, Brennan, Brannigan, and Schwartz in separate meetings on the same day to inform them of Waste Pro's offer and explain the potential long-term savings. January 5th, met with council members Dunn, Lahat, Wilmot, and informed them also of Waste Pro's offer. Item 8A is on the agenda today solely because Sidney Torres and IV Waste terminated their contract. Plain and simple. No politics, just greed. And those of you that pay attention in court, in every court appearance so far, IV Waste attorneys said, I'm trying to run them out of the city to benefit my friend Barbara Melly. Let me be clear. I met Barbara Melly only after I announced I was running for mayor. Now, since that narrative no longer works, I'm interested to hear what IV Waste's next story, because we know it will change. In my over 30 years in law enforcement, I've dealt with people like this. If they can't beat the facts, they focus their efforts on trying to beat up the officer. That tactic didn't work then, and it will not work now. The citizens of Kenner are smart and can see through the lies and deception. They demonstrated that in 2022 with 75% of the vote. And again in the most recent election when they elected Arita Bohannon to Jefferson Parish Council over the heavily backed Sidney Torres candidate. Remember why we're here today. Sidney Torres and IV Waste quit Kenner. That's backed up by every fact, every court ruling, and every letter sent to me. So I'm sure he's going to cry and say, I'm sure I'm going to get a defamation letter to make up something, but I'll put anything you want on our website, maybe not our website, but on anything I had to get out, so you can read this stuff yourself. We get more public records requests from two people that we have in upward every telephone call from our phones, every text message, and every email, going back to January of 2021 when I was the chief of police. They weren't even employed here. That's the stuff we're dealing with, and it's a constant. So you just throw a lot of stuff, try to cause confusion with the people, but I can tell you what, I was elected to be a stewardship of the city funds, and there's nobody coming in here getting what they don't deserve. If the contract calls for it, we'll pay you and be happy. But if you're trying to do something to get more out of the city of Kenner, it's not happening under this watch.